Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking about the movie An Adventure in Space and Time. And this is a rather interesting movie and something that's really fitting to be airing now on the Doctor Who 50th anniversary. And it's basically kind of the story of the birth of the Doctor Who television series. And it's actually quite good. The only real downside to this movie is its biggest drawback is that if you really don't know your Doctor Who history, then it's not really going to, I think, hit you as well as if you have some familiarity with the history of Doctor Who. Now, I'm not going to sit here and proclaim myself any kind of expert on the show's history. I know I know some about the early days of Doctor Who and its history over the years. Like folks like Terry Nation and John Nathan Turner, and of course other folks who were involved very heavily behind the scenes. Douglas Adams, of course. So, I was able to I knew who these important people were behind the scenes, and if for a lot of the people who are coming in from New Who, which started back in 2005. Since this is so much focused on that time, and particularly on the first Doctor's era, then I think a lot of this might really not resonate with them as strongly as it would be with somebody who has a long history with Doctor Who, who kind of remembers the fandom before the series came back. Now, I've been a fan of Doctor Who when I started watching episodes of the Fourth Doctor's run on my PBS station my freshman year of high school. So I've been a fan of Doctor Who literally for like almost half my life. So, but those older episodes, simply because so many of them were lost over the years, I just never had the chance to see very many of them. I've never had the chance to see very many First Doctor episodes. I've only had the chance to see a handful of Second Doctor episodes. Although I do have the collectors of like the War Games and Tomb of the Cybermen back at home, buried in my basement somewhere. But anyway, getting into this movie, basically the main characters are essentially sort of producer, Doctor Who's original producer, Verity Lambert, and William Hartnell, the actor who played the first Doctor. And really the first part of the movie is, of course, Verity's story, and it focuses more on the behind the scenes of it all, and a lot of it is focused on just the endless struggles that Doctor Who had getting off the ground, and a lot on her personal struggles being a woman trying to make it in the TV world in the early 1960s. And I've never seen the show Mad Men, but I think that would be a pretty good gauge to kind of give you an idea of what she was up against. And Verity Lambert would, of course, go on, from what I understand, to be quite the legend in British television, and it was really Doctor Who that started her career off. So it was very interesting to see that a lady going out there and really blazing a new trail for women in the British entertainment industry. But I have to say that the real juice of this story, the stuff where it really hits you, is the character, is we see how is seeing David Bradley play William Hartnell, the original Doctor. And he starts off as somewhat skeptical of the whole thing. William Hartnell was a guy who was really best known for playing, sort of gruff military guys, and remember this, he was not a guy. He was a guy who, when he came to Doctor Who, had been an actor his entire life. He had decades of experience as an actor when he came to Doctor Who, and he was initially somewhat skeptical of the whole thing. But as you go along, you see the story, you see him really fall in love with the character. You see how much it means to him that his granddaughter loves Doctor Who. How children on the streets are just enthralled to see him. You are seeing a man who, in the twilight and golden years of his life, has suddenly found something that has given his chosen profession more meaning than he had ever dreamed that it could. And then the cruel irony of it all, that just when he's found this golden, this new wonderful richness to his life, his health starts to fail. Alzheimer's starts to set in. And he has this weight on his shoulders, knowing that without the Doctor there can be no Doctor Who. And remember, the idea of regeneration was created to deal with the fact that William Hartnell his health would not allow him to continue to be Doctor Who, but the show had taken the country by storm. And seeing him, and yeah, gives Dave Bradley so much credit for the way he does it. It is fantastic acting. Seeing him realize that he's going to lose this thing that has brought this air of joy, this fresh air, this vitality, has basically made life seem so much more rich and invigorating, has made his life such a great and wonderful adventure, that he's having it taken away from him, and there's nothing that he can do about it. And it's heartbreaking to watch. And it's even more heartbreaking when you realize this is true. This is what happened to this man in real life. And, the First Doctor, to a lot of the newer fans who aren't really familiar with the stories or just as him as an abstract, well, remember, this is where it all started. And one thing that is consistent across the canon of Doctor Who, be it the TV series or the audio plays or the comics, one thing that is always consistent whenever they do those stories where the Doctor meets up with various versions of himself is that the First Doctor is always afforded enormous respect by his other incarnations. And that has been true for all the actors who have played the Doctor and for all the people who behind the series. That without William Hartnell and the magic that he created, the life that he breathed into this character in the golden years of his life, we would not have this show. The Doctor Who would have just be some forgotten relic from the 60s sci-fi. Never would have really been well known outside of the UK. It would have just been another thing that ended up on the junk heap of history. Because of what William Hartnell started, Doctor Who is now known around the world. It's an institution. It is the longest running science fiction program in history. It's essentially the flag show of the BBC, an icon of British culture. And while many people have had a hand in that over the years, William Hartnell is where it all started. Now, of course, this doesn't diminish the contributions of Verdi Lambert or Terry Nation or any of the other people who had a hand in the early days. But you can't have Doctor Who without the Doctor. And William Hartnell, he gave us that spark, that first Doctor, the one who all the other Doctors descend from, and the one who will always have a place in the Doctor's hearts. And of course in the hearts of the fans. Now this movie is not without its flaws. It kind of drags a little bit in the middle. And you kind of can, as I say, obviously they're taking a few pages out of Mad Men's playbook during the segments that focus on Verdi Lambert. But it is still a wonderful tribute to the early days of Doctor Who, and to two people, especially, who, without their efforts, this series would never have happened. This thing that has such a special place in the hearts of all of us would not be possible without these people. And this movie really does a great job of driving it home and reminding fans of Doctor Who, new and old, that while the show's older days might certainly be cheesy and maybe not mesh so well with modern sensibilities, we should not let that make us minimize the heart and effort that was put into making this show. And we should also remember that without all of that, this dynamic and wonderful thing that Doctor Who has become 50 years later would never have happened. And I have to say, guys, as a longtime fan of Doctor Who, even if you're not familiar with the old days, this is one worth sitting down and watching, because it's always good to remember the roots of where something you love comes from. And spoilers, it wouldn't quite be a Doctor Who story, even a story about Doctor Who in the real world, if there wasn't a little Doctor Who twist in there somewhere. And there is. And it's well worth watching this movie to see what it is. I promise you, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you'll be thrilled when you find it. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you this time around. As always, please comment, rate, subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.